no matter what you believe yourselves to be, you are nothing other than a piece of equal life. A good foundation, I've found, is necessary, and destiny has those good foundations. I built my own Jehovah's Babelish, not so secret society on sand and bedrock, and on reaching the top of the tower, so to speak, destiny said, join us if you dare. I dared. I dare. So I demolished the tower, yet the gods it was reaching to, do they remain? Was I creating it to furnish the not so secret society I had created, although I found during its construction that it's another story, I might tell it one day. Who knows? Where was I? Besides here all the time. Foundation. Neighbours squabbling all fucking day and all night, and all day and all night. How can they do that? Thinking to myself, I'm going to sleep at erratic times. Haphazard sleep, I call it. Well, I just did then, I've never called it that before. They keep waking me up every 2 or 3 hours. Fine. Well, if they're waking me up every 2 or 3 hours, they must be awake every 2 or 3 hours. To wake me up every 2 or 3 hours, how could they be doing that? It's only me haphazard sleeps that I know of. In fact, they don't appear to be haphazardly sleeping at all. In fact, they don't appear to be sleeping at all. Prevalent around these parts, not sleeping at all, for a number of days. I think they call it amphetamine addiction. And it, I don't know if the word enabled is the right word. Within it, they access the unconscious. All drugs bad news, really. It's like sex, you know, for me to sit here and say drugs are bad news. I don't do them anymore because they are bad news. But like me telling you, sex is not about pleasure, because I've had sex, lots of it, and I'm looking at it now, I'm thinking, was it actually pleasurable, that, Anthony? Like I look at my drug use and my drug experience and think, was there any validity in it, really? Was it pleasurable? Were the drugs pleasurable? Was the sex really pleasurable? I mean, the sex is it's a two-way intimate thing that I couldn't answer I could not give the answer on my own. Was it pleasure? well, I'm not too sure it was pleasurable for me, but I used to get the pleasure from giving pleasure, and therefore I would need to find the partner who I was pleasuring to decide whether there was any pleasure in sex or not, because even though I might not necessarily get pleasure from having sex, if I can give someone pleasure by having sex with them, I would still be prone to have sex, whereas I have no interest in sex at all, to be honest. It doesn't appeal to me. I have no desire for sex. I have no desire at all, really. It can be quite don't know what term of reference to use there, but not having any desires sort of stops one from achieving anything, because you need the desire to achieve, so to speak. Flux, let's call it in flux. I just watched that reference point video, and there's a couple of points that really needed clarifying. Yeah. Health, Anthony is health. Stretching, stretch. It's really good exercise. Just stretch. Quite be good. You can stretch oneself quite easily. I think you call it yoga in the East. Excuse me. I flew my helicopter last night. That my brother got me for Christmas, so to speak. The smallest part fell off it. It must be the cheapest part on the toy. It crashed. It's quite difficult. You need a sports hall really to learn how to control the controls. It crashed. The smallest piece fell off it. It must have cost them the minimum to supply this piece. No, it won't fly because I need this little, like, it goes on the end of the spindle that the rotor blades are on. Sort of grommet, a nut without any screw thread slides on the spindle and stops it from raising. Interesting. I wonder if there's a Freudian version of poker where everything you say and do can be related to poker, like everything you say and do can be related to Freudian sex. Well, I don't really know anything about Freud. I mock him often. I found with Freud, tried to prove him wrong, but what I found in the end ultimately was I'd never be able to prove Freud wrong, because I'd had sex. The only way to prove Freud wrong would be to never have sex. If you've had sex, you can never prove Freud wrong. It gets into the nature of interpretation, doesn't it? And how one interprets interpretively. So it's alright analysing oneself, especially in this day and age where we need to, because we've been misled and deceived. Though ultimately, once one is, well, for my own once one is acting, once one is acting, one is delusional. Can't get the words out, so but they used to say, point him in the right direction and he'll get there. I used to live by slogans. It begins and ends with the self. In between we push and pull ourselves to our limits. And within that, it is the basic truth of life and the self. And we certainly do push and pull ourselves, and only to our limits. But what are our limits? And you can push yourself to the limit, and there is no return. And words of wisdom, 5:42 AM. The neighbours must be snoozing for half an hour in between having another can of beer. Because you drink alcohol as well, alcohol and amphetamine. Well, I'm not giving anybody any ideas, so I'll leave it at that. I can still hear them. I can hear them coming down the wall, but it's bad design, that. One, it's bad design, cheap materials. You can hear sound travels through the sewage pipe system. You can hear them having a piss upstairs, and it's travelling through the pipe. I was sat here, the toilet's through the door, down the hallway, it's in a little hallway, through the door. I mean, when I can hear what he's saying up there, and when the flat was empty underneath, I put my music on as loud as I have it, and I went down, and I went down while the decorators were in. I couldn't hear a fucking thing, so why can I hear them? No, that's a ground floor flat. This is a first floor flat, that's the second floor. There might be some difference in the floor. Most certainly travelling down the wall though, rather than through the floor. And the thing is, it's not his flat, it's his girlfriend. She isn't allowed to have visitors staying overnight. So it's her flat, she's not disturbing me, he is. And and we'll be dealing with it. Because, to be honest, she could make as much noise and disturb me as much as she believes she needed to, which she probably will do once I've reported her boyfriend. It's disturbing me, and I don't mind her disturbing me, but I'm going to complain about him disturbing me because he shouldn't actually be here, and therefore I'm being disturbed by someone who has no right to be here, who apparently has his own flat anywhere elsewhere. And I was only grateful I had some shelter the other night. I weren't grateful I had some shelter out of gratitude for being given the shelter. I was grateful I had some shelter because I'm grateful I've got shelter, rather than not having, especially during this White Christmas spell.